Am I the whole for rejecting my dad's efforts to repair our relationship because he chose his wife over me? I, 21 lost my mom before I was old enough to remember her. She passed away when I was still a baby, and for most of my early childhood, it was just me and my dad. We were close. I remember how much he used to smile when he looked at me, how he'd read me stories at night, take me to the park, or just sit beside me watching cartoons. Even though my life started with a loss, I felt safe and loved until everything changed. When I was around 9, my dad met Lindsay. She was a single mom with 2 kids, an 11-year-old daughter and a 6-year-old son who was special needs and medically complex. I didn't understand the full scope of what that meant at the time, but I knew right away that Lindsay's life was hectic. Her son needed constant care. Medical equipment filled every corner of her home. Her daughter was angry, volatile, and unpredictable. And yet, within months of meeting, my dad and Lindsay rushed into a relationship. By May they met. By September, I was being introduced to a brand new family. By November, we were moving in. By February, they were married. It was that fast. From the start, I knew something was off. I wasn't given a proper bedroom. What used to be the home office was cleared out and turned into my room. Just a curtain separating me from the rest of the house, and an old mattress on the floor instead of a real bed. Lindsay's son needed space for mobility equipment. Her daughter had a room to herself. My dad said we needed to make things work. But nothing about it worked, especially not for me. The house was chaos. Lindsay's son required constant attention and around-the-clock care. He had frequent hospital visits, medications, feeding tubes, and machines that beeped at all hours. I know it wasn't his fault. I know he didn't choose to be sick. But his needs swallowed everything. Every moment, every dollar, every ounce of my dad's attention. I went from being the son my dad always looked out for to just another body in the house. And Lindsay's daughter? She made life even worse. She was always angry, always screaming. She broke things, expensive things, like her brother's medical equipment. She snuck out of the house, stole money, got drunk, started using drugs. She was violent, too. She shoved me if I was in her way, cursed at me daily, once even dragged me by the legs out of the makeshift bed that was supposed to be mine. And through all of it, my dad stayed silent. Even when I begged him to leave, I told him, more than once, that I missed the way things used to be, just the two of us, that I didn't feel safe or wanted. But he told me we made a commitment, that he couldn't walk away from Lindsay and her kids, because good people don't do that. He told me he deserved to be happy, that Lindsay was his second chance at love. Your mom was my first shot, he said. I lost her. I can't lose Lindsay too. He told me I'd understand someday. When I was 13, Lindsay's son had a medical emergency and ended up in the hospital for over a month. Lindsay stayed with him 24/7, and my dad was either at work or with her. I went 6 weeks without seeing him. 6 weeks. I was a kid, barely a teenager, and I was left with a note that said, "Go to friends' houses if there's no food." That was it. No check-ins. No hugs. No, how are you doing? Just silence. And constant verbal and physical torment from Lindsay's daughter. I barely slept. I barely ate. I spent most of that time hiding behind a curtain, trying to make myself invisible. When I turned 15, Lindsay started treating me like a full-time babysitter. She expected me to help with chores, do errands, pick up after her son. When I said I didn't want to, my dad told me I was being disrespectful to my new mom. That's what he called her. My new mom. I snapped. I told him to F***** off. Told him she'd never be my mother and that I hated everything about our life now. I said nothing good had come from him marrying her. That was the beginning of the end. We had more fights after that. Lindsay cried and said she loved me and that her son adored me and would be devastated if he knew I saw him as nothing but a burden. But that's what I was, burdened. I was forced into a life I didn't choose, where my needs never mattered. So when I was 17, I left. No warning. No plan. No money. I just walked away. I left a note for my dad, just like he had done for me, and disappeared. He filed a missing persons report, but when the police found me, I told them I was safe and refused to return. I managed to stay off the radar until I turned 18. Then I was free. Eventually, I found my mom's family. Turns out, my maternal grandparents had been trying to find me for years, but my dad moved and never gave them contact info. When I reconnected with them, they welcomed me with open arms. Now I live with them, and for the first time since I was a little kid, I feel like I have a real home again. I hadn't heard from my dad for years, until a couple of months ago. He found me. I don't know how, but he did. He started texting and messaging me. At first, I ignored it. But then, a week ago, I replied. He said he was heartbroken that we ended up like this. That he had no idea if I'd ever even see the message because he thought I might have blocked him. He said he loved me, missed me, that he wanted to rebuild our relationship. I told him no. I told him flat out. He chose his wife over me. He made my childhood miserable and left me behind in a house that made me feel invisible and unsafe. I said I was putting my happiness first now, and that meant not letting him back in. Since then, he hasn't stopped messaging. He keeps saying I'm being unfair, that I should never have expected him to give up his wife for me, that he deserved to have love again, and I should be mature enough to understand that. He says I need my dad, that I'll regret cutting him off forever. He's practically begging. It's desperate. Sad even. But I still feel like I'm doing what's best for me. Am I the a-hole for rejecting my dad's attempts to fix our relationship, even if he says he needs me now? Because all I keep thinking is I needed him back then. And he wasn't there.